Distance, 2 o'clock round. Take the shot.
They never stop coming.
February 16, 1945. The sun rises over Tokyo Bay, casting a pale orange light through drifting smoke from last night's air raid drills. Down below, anti-aircraft crews stand weary and cold atop the Ministry of War's concrete rooftop. They've seen plenty of American bombers before, slow, predictable, lumbering fortresses, but today feels different. At Atsugi Air Base, Captain Masami Taniguchi, a 26-year-old veteran of the China campaign, straps himself into a Nakajima Ki-84 Hay-8 Gale. He has flown for the Emperor since 1939, survived dogfights over Hankow and Leyte Gulf, but something gnaws at him now. Tokyo is supposed to be untouchable. The imperial capital lies hundreds of miles beyond enemy reach. Yet the radar operators at Tateyama have just reported fast-moving contacts over the Pacific, too fast for B-29s. He glances at his wingman, Lieutenant Kenji Sato, barely 20, who tightens his goggles with trembling hands. "Stay close," Taniguchi says, his voice firm despite the knot in his chest. "If they are American, they'll come high, always high. Engines roar across the runway, propellers slicing the cold morning air. As they lift off, Taniguchi's radio crackles with urgent chatter, unidentified formation approaching from the southeast. Altitude 20,000 feet and climbing. Then they see them. Tiny glints in the sun, at first silver specks that move with impossible grace. Within seconds, the sky fills with the unmistakable silhouettes of P-51 Mustangs. Over 100 of them. From the ground, citizens of Tokyo pause mid-step as the sound reaches them, a deep, confident hum, unlike the thunderous drone of bombers. The sound of single-engine fighters over Tokyo? Impossible. But the impossible has come true. Each Mustang bears the blue and white star of the United States Army Air Forces. Painted across their noses are names like Moonbeam McSwine, the Enchantress, the Flying Dutchman. They've flown over 1,500 miles from a captured speck of volcanic rock called Iwo Jima, an island wrested from Japanese hands just days before. Leading the formation is Major James Tapp of the 78th Fighter Squadron, callsign Patty, and his P-51D Mustang glints under the morning sun, its Merlin engine humming at full song. Behind him, 118 pilots follow, each aware they are making history, the first single-engine fighter mission over Japan's home islands. Tapp peers down through his canopy. Tokyo stretches vast and gray below, the Imperial Palace shimmering in the distance. "Unbelievable," he mutters. "We actually made it. Blue leader to all elements," his voice crackles over the radio. "Stay sharp, keep your fuel tight. Let us show them what a Mustang can do. The Japanese scramble becomes chaos. Ki-84s claw into the air from Chofu, Atsugi, and Yokosuka, but few climb high enough in time. The Americans dive through scattered clouds like hawks, fast, clean, deadly." Lieutenant Jerry Yellin, flying Dory R, spots 3 Ki-84s banking below him. "Tally-ho," he shouts, rolling inverted and pulling the trigger. His 6.50 caliber Brownings roar to life. Tracers slice through the sky. One Hay-8 bursts into flame, its engine exploding before plunging earthward. On the ground, anti-aircraft gunners fire frantically. Shells burst uselessly at 30,000 feet. Tokyo's defenders are fighting ghosts, machines that should not be here, flown by men who've crossed an ocean to find them. For the first time since Pearl Harbor, Japan's pilots realize they are the hunted. Major Tapp watches smoke rise from the distant Chofu airfield. "That's for every crew that never made it home," he whispers. The Mustangs turn south, streaking back toward Iwo Jima, their fuel gauges dancing dangerously low. They've spent only 20 minutes over Tokyo, but it's enough. In those 20 minutes, Japan's illusion of air safety dies forever. Below, Captain Taniguchi lands his battered Ki-84, fuel nearly gone, hands shaking. They came from the sea, he mutters to his mechanic. Single engine impossible distance. The mechanic looks skyward, silent. High above, vapor trails still linger straight, defiant, American. And at that moment, every man in uniform knows, the war has changed. February 1945 may have been the first time Japanese pilots saw the Mustang over Tokyo, but the story of that fighter began years earlier, across an ocean, in a hangar outside Inglewood, California. It started not with triumph, but with desperation. In April 1940, before the United States even entered the war, a group of engineers at North American Aviation gathered around a drafting table under the hum of fluorescent lights. Among them was Edgar Schmud, a German-born designer who had fled Europe's chaos. He traced the lines of an aircraft no one had asked for: sleek, elongated, almost predatory. The British wanted a stopgap fighter. Schmud wanted perfection. He called it the NA-73X, but soon the world would know it as the P-51 Mustang. At first, the British Royal Air Force wasn't impressed. Early Mustangs, fitted with Allison engines, gasped for air above 15,000 feet. Over Europe, where battles raged high above the clouds, they were almost useless. But then came a marriage that changed history: an American airframe and a British heart. In 1942, Rolls-Royce engineers installed their Merlin 61 engine into the P-51's frame. The result stunned even the skeptics: speeds exceeding 440 miles per hour, blistering climb rates, and fuel efficiency no one thought possible. The Mustang could now fight at 40,000 feet faster, higher, and farther than anything the Luftwaffe could field. By 1943, as bombers bled over Europe, the Mustang became their guardian angel. Pilots called it a dream with wings. From England's frozen airfields, P-51s escorted B-17s deep into Nazi territory, chasing Messerschmitts from Berlin to Munich. They cleared the skies over Europe, and the same strategy: long-range dominance would soon leap across the Pacific. Back in the States, military planners faced a grim reality. The Pacific was an oceanic fortress too vast, too deadly. Japan's home islands lay thousands of miles from any Allied base. B-29 bombers could reach Tokyo from the Mariana Islands, but without escort, they were easy prey for Japanese interceptors. General Curtis LeMay, the fiery architect of America's air campaign, demanded a solution. "We need a fighter that can go all the way," he said, slamming his fist on the planning table. "All the way to Tokyo and back. There was only one aircraft capable of that feat." Engineers modified the Mustang into the P-51D model: larger drop tanks under the wings, reinforced cooling systems, bubble canopy for visibility, and 6 Browning .50 caliber machine guns. It was elegant yet brutal, a precision weapon built for total air supremacy. In late 1944, the plan took shape: capture Iwo Jima, an unremarkable volcanic island halfway between the Marianas and Japan, and turn it into a forward base. From there, Mustangs could escort B-29 straight into the heart of the empire. But Iwo Jima was no gift, it was a fortress of rock and blood. As engineers perfected the Mustang, 21,000 Marines stormed that black sand island under the shadow of Mount Suribachi. For 36 days, they fought through ash and tunnels, paying for every inch in lives. The island's strategic value wasn't measured in land, it was measured in miles. Every foot gained brought Tokyo closer to American reach. By February 1945, when the runways were finally secure, the 15th and 21st Fighter Groups began unloading crates stamped North American Aviation. Inside them, the future rulers of Japan's skies. Major James Tapp was one of the first to land his Mustang on the steaming runway of Iwo Jima. As he stepped out, he could still smell sulfur rising from the volcanic soil. Behind him, ground crews worked frantically to prepare the first mission. Fuel lines hissed, wrenches clanged, and the salty wind carried the distant echo of naval gunfire. "Think she'll make it that far?" one mechanic asked, glancing at the map stretched across a crate. Tapp smiled. "If she doesn't, we'll swim home. On the morning of February 16, 1945, the first Mustangs lifted off from Iwo Jima, carrying the hopes of every bomber crew that had ever watched tracer rounds slice through their formation. They were more than fighters now, they were shields, avengers, and messengers of a new era in air warfare. As their silhouettes disappeared toward Japan, the Pacific Ocean below shimmered like liquid silver, a bridge of destiny connecting invention, courage, and sacrifice. And beyond the horizon, Tokyo waited, unaware that the sound of the Mustang's Merlin engine would soon echo through its skies like the thunder of inevitability. February 16, 1945. 0400 hours. The volcanic island of Iwo Jima still smolders in the darkness as Major James Tapp climbs into his P-51D Mustang. Around him, 108 other Mustangs roar to life, their engines growling like wild beasts awakening in unison. Ground crews wave flashlights under the dim red glow of the operations tent. It is still pitch black, just wind, salt, and the endless Pacific. Each pilot carries 400 gallons of fuel, including 2 massive drop tanks slung under the wings. Even so, the margin for error is razor thin. One miscalculation, one fuel leak, and they want to make it back. Tapp checks his watch, 0417. He flips his oxygen mask down, closes the canopy, and signals the tower. Blue leader ready for takeoff. The reply crackles through static, Godspeed, Blue leader. Bring him home. The first P-51 rolls down the rough coral strip, its wheels barely gripping the volcanic grit. One by one, the Mustangs climb into the night, their exhaust flames flickering like comets. Beneath them, the island shrinks into darkness, the last friendly ground for 1,500 miles. As dawn breaks, the formation stretches across the Pacific in a wide V. The morning light paints the silver Mustangs gold. The ocean below is calm, deceptive, infinite. Lieutenant Jerry Yellin, flying dory R, peers over his shoulder at the wingman on his right. Lieutenant Philip Schlamberg, just 19 years old, fresh from flight school. He smiles nervously. First mission? Yellin asks over the radio. Yes, sir, Schlamberg replies. Hard to believe we're really doing this. Just remember, Yellin says, these Mustangs can take you farther than your nerves will. The pilots fly at 10,000 feet, conserving fuel. There is no music, no chatter, only the rhythmic hum of 108 Merlin engines. After 3 hours, the first clouds appear. Navigation is done by dead reckoning, no GPS, no radar. Only compass headings, drift angles, and faith. By hour 4, fatigue sets in. Some pilots chew gum, others stare at the gauges like gamblers praying for a winning number. Fuel levels fall, but not dangerously. Yet. At hour 5, the horizon changes. The clouds thin and there it is. Japan. A dark line rising from the sea. The coast of Honshu. Major Tapp radios the group. Blue leader to all elements, welcome to Tokyo. The formation climbs to 25,000 feet. The sun gleams off the wings, a silent armada of light and steel. Below, the sprawling gray mass of Tokyo comes into view: docks, factories, shipyards, and the Imperial Palace. Smoke curls from chimneys. Trains crawl through the streets like veins of steel. Targets of opportunity, Tapp says calmly. Hit them hard and fast. Dante linger. Moments later, the Mustangs split into attack elements. Japanese radar stations along the coast pick up the signal, a swarm of fast-moving aircraft. At first, commanders assume they're B-29s, but the speed is wrong, the altitude is wrong. Confusion spreads through Tokyo's defense network. At Atsugi Air Base, Captain Masami Taniguchi hears the alarm siren wail again. He had landed only a few hours ago from patrol and was still debriefing. What now? He mutters. Small formation, very fast, the controller shouts. Not bombers. Taniguchi rushes to his key, 84. Impossible, he says under his breath as he straps in. Single-engine planes can't reach Tokyo. But the sky soon proves him wrong. As his wheels lift off the runway, he spots them, silver arrows diving out of the sun. The first Mustang streaks past his canopy, machine guns blazing. The air erupts in tracers and vapor trails. Taniguchi banks hard, pulling into a vertical climb, the G-forces pressing him into his seat. A Mustang follows Jerry Yellin's dory R. He fires a burst, missing by inches. Taniguchi flips inverted and dives, trying to shake him, but the Mustang stays glued to his tail. The Merlin's scream drowns out everything else. For 30 desperate seconds, it's man versus machine, instinct versus technology. Taniguchi pulls a tight turn, his hay-8 strains, nearly stalling. The Mustang loops above him, rolls, and comes down in perfect position. Another burst. Tracers punch through Taniguchi's wing. He yanks the throttle and bails out as smoke engulfs his cockpit. When his parachute opens, the world is silent except for the distant thunder of Mustangs roaring past. By midday, the air over Tokyo is chaos. Japanese fighters scramble in 2s and 3s, the Americans hunt in disciplined packs. Factories burn, rail yards explode, airfields vanish under machine gun fire. The Mustangs don't linger, they re-precise, surgical, terrifying. Major Tapp banks left, scanning for stragglers. We came 1,500 miles for 20 minutes of war, he mutters, and it's enough. Below, fires rage unchecked. The Imperial capital once thought untouchable now trembles under the wings of American fighters. As the Mustangs turn south for home, their fuel gauges hover at the red line. One pilot reports a sputtering engine. Another loses radio contact. But most make it barely. 6 hours after takeoff, the first silver dots reappear over Iwo Jima. Ground crews cheer as the planes touch down one by one, tires screeching on volcanic dust. The first words out of Major Tapp's mouth are simple. Tell General LeMay it worked. That night, as the pilots gather around tin cups of coffee and the sea wind howls through camp, Jerry Yellin stares toward the horizon. Somewhere beyond that darkness lies Tokyo, still burning, still echoing with the sound of Merlin engines. And for the first time, he feels at the beginning of the end. February 25, 1945. 9 days after the first Mustang raid. The winter wind sweeping across Tokyo Bay carries the faint, metallic smell of fire and oil. The city sleeps uneasily beneath a sky scarred by contrails. On the edge of Haneda Airfield, Sergeant Ichiro Morita listens to the distant hum of engines. He is not sure if it's thunder or death. Moments later, searchlights ignite the night. Long, pale beams pierce the clouds, and what they reveal turns Morita's blood cold, silver silhouettes, glinting like razors, descending through the moonlight. They re-back. American Mustangs, dozens of them streaking through the darkness, followed by the ominous drone of B-29 superfortresses. Together, they bring hell to the capital. From 30,000 feet above, Major James Tapp steadies his Mustang. Below him, the world flickers, firebombs blossom across Tokyo like molten flowers. The city seems to breathe flames. This is it, he says quietly, voice trembling with awe and horror. This is what total war looks like. The Mustangs dive in pairs, raking flak positions, strafing airfields, clearing the way for the bombers. Every few seconds, tracer fire reaches up like desperate fingers. Most of it misses. The rest dies in the smoke. At ground level, Tokyo is a nightmare. Wind from the firestorm roars through the narrow streets, tearing roofs from houses, sucking oxygen from the air. Civilians flee toward the riverbanks, clutching children, choking on ash. The wooden city once proud and alive burns like paper. Captain Taniguchi, grounded with a shrapnel wound from the previous raid, watches helplessly from the air raid shelter near Yokohama. He can hear the explosions, the roar of engines, the muffled screams. How did it come to this, he whispers. No one answers. For the American pilots, the mission is both triumph and torment. Lieutenant Jerry Yellin flies through a wall of black smoke, the smell of burning wood seeping through his oxygen mask. Tokyo's gone, his wingman murmurs over the radio. All of it. Keep your eyes open, Yellin replies. We're not here to watch. We're here to finish. They circle the outskirts, hammering supply depots and rail lines. Every hit sends sparks into the inferno below. From above, the city looks like a living creature, dying, veins of fire twisting and pulsing in the dark. By dawn, 16 square miles of Tokyo lie in ruins. More than 100,000 civilians are dead or missing. The Imperial Air Service is shattered. Out of 300 Japanese fighters scrambled that night, fewer than 40 return. For Japan's commanders, the unthinkable truth begins to settle in: the sky once their sacred shield now belongs to the enemy. A week later, in a dim underground command room beneath the Imperial Palace, General Sanji Okita addresses his staff. Maps of Japan's defense zones hang limp on the walls, edges curling from the humidity. Every night they come farther, Okita says, voice breaking. From Iwo Jima. From the sea. There is no distance anymore. An aide hesitates. Our fuel reserves are nearly gone. The Hayats can only fly once a day. Some Dante return. Okita closes his eyes. Then we no longer have an air force, he says softly. Above them, Tokyo smolders. The fires have turned to ash, but the sky remains gray, the color of defeat. Across the Pacific, at the new headquarters of the XXI Bomber Command in Guam, General Curtis LeMay studies reconnaissance photos spread across a long wooden table. The images show block after block of Tokyo blackened, flattened, unrecognizable. He doesn't smile. He just nods once. They'll break, he says. Not today, but soon. LeMay knows the cost. He has seen his own bomber crews incinerated, vaporized, or torn apart by flak. But he also knows the strategy is working. The Mustangs have changed everything. They've made every city on the Japanese mainland reachable, every airfield vulnerable, every hope untenable. Back on Iwo Jima, the Mustang pilots rest in canvas tents beside their planes. The island smells of fuel and sulfur, of sweat and salt. The nights are long, filled with the distant thunder of B-29s launching north. Jerry Yellin lies awake in his cot, staring at the tent ceiling. He thinks about the Japanese pilots he has shot down, the flashes of wings, the falling parachutes, the faces he never saw. They fight like us, he tells his friend quietly. But they don't stand a chance anymore. His friend doesn't answer. There's nothing to say. Outside, the ocean murmurs against the black shore, and in the distance, faint and low, the sound of Merlin engines hums like a heartbeat, steady, relentless, victorious. By March 1945, the P-51 Mustang isn't just a fighter. It's a symbol of inevitability. And as Tokyo smokes under the dawn light, one truth becomes clear. The age of the samurai sky has ended, replaced by the machine-made wings of America's industrial empire. April 7, 1945. Mount Fuji looms pale and silent under the morning sun as a formation of Ki-84 Hay-8 fighters, what remains of Japan's once proud air defense, scrambles from Fu Air Base. At their head flies Captain Masami Taniguchi, bandaged arms stiff against the throttle. His unit, the 47th Sentai, numbers only 12 aircraft now. Fuel is scarce, ammunition scarcer, but honor demands they fly. Remember, Taniguchi radios, protect the city whatever it takes. The pilots respond with brief, stoic affirmations. None of them expect to return. They all know what's coming. Above them, the sky hums with approaching thunder, the sound of 100 Merlin engines. Major James Tapp's 78th Fighter Squadron crosses the coast at 25,000 feet. Their mission, sweep ahead of the B-29s and destroy any remaining Japanese interceptors. Below, Tokyo glitters faintly in the haze, a ghost of the city it once was. Tapp tightens his harness and checks his 6. Blue leader to all units. Keep your spacing. If they rise to meet us, take them head-on. Moments later, radar intercepts confirm enemy movement. They're coming up, Lieutenant Jerry Yellin reports. Looks like 12 of them. Low formation, tight discipline. Tapp's voice steadies. Then let us finish this. At 22,000 feet, the two formations meet, 12 Ki-84s climbing into the sun, 60 Mustangs descending out of it. For a brief, frozen second, both sides see the other clearly, faces behind canopies, wings gleaming, propellers blurring. Warriors of two worlds, bound by the same sky. Then the air explodes in gunfire. .50 caliber tracers streak like meteors, crossing the vapor trails. A Mustang bursts into flames, spinning down in smoke. Two Ki-84s disintegrate under a concentrated burst from Yellin's guns. Another climbs vertically, stalls, and falls, a flicker of wings, then nothing. Taniguchi pulls hard right, diving into the fight. His Hay-8 shudders as he lines up a shot on a Mustang banking wide. He squeezes the trigger, his 20mm cannon spits fire. The Mustang's canopy shatters, and the aircraft spirals away. He exhales, a momentary surge of triumph before the sky erupts behind him. A P-51D screams in from above, guns flashing. Bullets rake across Taniguchi's tail. His cockpit fills with smoke. He rolls inverted, diving toward the sea, heart pounding. Not yet, he growls. Not today. He pulls out at treetop height, engine coughing. The ocean flashes beneath him like molten glass. Behind him, the sky is chaos, a swirling storm of contrails, debris, and courage. After 20 minutes, it's over. 9 of Taniguchi's 12 pilots are gone. The survivors limp home, engines sputtering, ammunition spent. From his cracked canopy, Taniguchi watches the last of the Mustangs peel away toward the south, sunlight flashing off their wings like silver swords. He knows what it means. The battle for Japan's skies is lost. Still, he whispers a silent vow, we will fight until the last. But in his heart, he knows the truth, there is no last. Only the waiting. At Iwo Jima, the Mustang pilots gather around a briefing tent as maintenance crews wipe grime and salt from the aircraft. The mission is declared a success. 2 Mustangs lost. 11 confirmed kills. Major Tapp studies the casualty board in silence. Weary killing ghosts, he murmurs. They keep coming, but there's nothing left behind them. Yellin nods. They fight like it still matters. It does to them, Tapp replies. They redefending what's left of their world. As the weeks roll on, Japan's air resistance collapses entirely. By May 1945, the once feared Ki-84 squadrons are grounded for lack of fuel. Pilots train in wooden gliders. Factories work in darkness, stripped bare by Allied bombings. And yet, in every surviving base, the samurai spirit lingers, the belief that dying well is better than surrendering. On June 22, 1945, the last operational Hay-8 of the 47th Sentai takes off from Ch-Fu. The pilot's name is lost to history. He never returns. By summer, the sky belongs to the Americans. B-29 formations fly unescorted, unchallenged, unafraid. The once mighty empire of the rising sun now looks up only to see foreign wings and the distant promise of annihilation. But the war is not yet over. A new kind of storm is coming, not of bullets and steel, but of fire and light. And when it arrives, it will end everything. July 10, 1945. The humid air over Tokyo hangs heavy with the scent of rain and ash. From the roof of the Ministry of Communications, the city seems strangely peaceful, but the peace is a lie. At 10:20 p.m., the air raid sirens begin to wail again, a familiar, hopeless cry that rolls through the streets like the tolling of a bell. This time, the Americans are not coming in small formations. They're coming with everything. Over the Pacific, a vast armada of B-29 superfortresses crosses the coastline, their bellies packed with incendiaries. Escorting them, like silent sentinels, are 148 P-51 Mustangs, the long-range killers that now own Japan's sky. Leading the fighter escort is Major James Tapp, his Mustang patty and gleaming under the moonlight. The cockpit glass reflects the glow of the burning world below. He doesn't need coordinates anymore, he can navigate by the fires. Blue leader to all units, he radios. Escort pattern Delta. Keep the bombers clean. No heroics tonight. Down below, Tokyo vanishes under waves of fire. From a narrow street in Kanda district, Sergeant Ichiro Morita, the same soldier who once manned flak guns at Haneda, stands powerless among the chaos. The air feels alive, whipping in all directions as the firestorm builds. Wooden homes burst like matchsticks. Sparks leap from rooftop to rooftop, carried by wind so hot it melts steel. The city becomes an inferno, and the sound is like the end of the world, roaring, cracking, consuming everything. Morita covers his mouth with a soaked cloth, trying to breathe. He looks up through the smoke and glimpses them again, silver shapes slicing across the sky. Mustangs. The same ones that haunted his nightmares since February. He drops to his knees. There's no fight left. No sky left to defend. From his cockpit, Jerry Yellin watches the orange glow rise to meet him. Jesus, he whispers. That's a whole city burning. His wingman's voice trembles through the radio. They said it was war, but this. Yellin can't answer. Below, entire neighborhoods collapse into sheets of flame. The heat turbulence jolts his Mustang violently. He steadies the stick and looks away. We just fly the mission, he mutters, almost to himself. We just fly. By midnight, Tokyo, Nagoya, and Osaka are burning simultaneously. 3 cities one night. The Mustang pilots orbit silently above it all, guardians and witnesses to humanity's self-destruction. On the ground at Fu, Captain Masami Taniguchi limps through the hangar. His Ki-84 lies in ruins stripped for parts, unflyable. There are no engines left, no gasoline, no orders. Just rumors. He stops beneath a tattered banner that once read, "Defend the Empire to the death." Around him, young mechanics sit in silence, staring at the ground. Some cry quietly. Others sharpen bayonets, as if preparing for ghosts that will never come. Taniguchi takes a deep breath. "It's over," he says softly. No one argues. Outside, the horizon glows red. In Guam, General Curtis LeMay reads the after-action reports. His cigar burns low as he listens to the radioman's voice, "Tokyo, Nagoya, and Osaka destroyed. Japanese air opposition negligible." LeMay exhales smoke and studies the mission data. Losses, minimal. Targets, obliterated. Resistance, none. He knows what this means. Japan is finished. But it doesn't feel like victory, not yet. It feels like momentum, like gravity pulling history toward its inevitable conclusion. By August, the raids continue, but there is nothing left to destroy. American bombers roam the skies unchallenged. The Mustang pilots fly their missions more like patrols now, marking railways and searching for any sign of movement. Tokyo is gone. Nagoya is gone. Kobe, Yokohama, Hiroshima all smoldering, all silent. The Japanese airfields that once roared with Hayats now lie buried in weeds. Young cadets, barely trained, stand in empty hangars, staring at grounded planes they'll never fly. The empire that once dreamed of domination has been stripped bare from the sky downward. August 6, 1945. At 8:15 a.m., a blinding white flash erupts over Hiroshima. 43 seconds later, an entire city ceases to exist. The age of the Mustang ends and a new age, colder and more terrible, begins. When the second flash consumes Nagasaki 3 days later, even the most loyal Japanese commanders understand. The war is not lost, it is over. On August 15, Emperor Hirohito's voice, trembling but resolute, drifts through every surviving radio in Japan. He speaks of enduring the unendurable. He orders surrender. Across the Pacific, pilots, sailors, and soldiers stop mid-task to listen. Some cheer. Some cry. Others just sit in silence, trying to grasp the magnitude of what they've lived through. For the men of the P-51 squadrons, the war ends not with a final dogfight, but with stillness, the same kind of silence that once preceded their takeoffs from Iwo Jima. Only now, the sky belongs to no one. That night, Jerry Yellin stands beside his Mustang, staring at the Pacific horizon. In his pocket, a small radio whispers the Emperor's voice again, faint, distant, defeated. Yellin looks down at his aircraft, its silver skin reflecting the starlight. "You brought me home," he murmurs. "Every time." He glances upward at the same stars his enemies once saw from their own cockpits and feels something close to sorrow. The war is over. The Mustangs have done their job. But the silence they leave behind is almost unbearable. September 2, 1945. Tokyo Bay. A morning mist clings to the gray waters as the USS Missouri floats in silence. Above her, the sky is uncharacteristically calm, no fighters, no bombers, just a quiet peace that feels both unreal and fragile. At 9:02 a.m., representatives of the Japanese Empire step forward and sign the instrument of surrender. Cameras click. Pens scratch. The world changes forever. High above the ceremony, a formation of American aircraft slices across the heavens, more than 450 planes, led by the B-29 Superfortresses and flanked by the unmistakable silhouettes of P-51 Mustangs. Their polished wings catch the morning sun, gleaming like silver blades. Below, General Douglas MacArthur looks up briefly, nodding to the sight. It's a salute from the sky, the same sky that once belonged to Japan. The Mustang pilots fly in perfect formation, engines humming in reverent unison. Among them is Captain Jerry Yellin, his aircraft trimmed and spotless for what will be his final combat sortie. He glances down through the cockpit glass at the Missouri and whispers, "It's over. He has survived 36 missions and outlived almost every Japanese pilot he ever faced. After landing on Iwo Jima that afternoon, the pilots dismount in silence. There is no champagne, no fanfare, just the hollow clank of boots on steel. Mechanics approach and begin wiping the dust from the Mustangs, uncertain whether to keep them ready or finally shut them down for good. Lieutenant Robert Hutchins tosses his flight gloves onto the wing of his P-51 and mutters, "What do we do now?" Yellin shrugs. "We go home. Whatever that means. But home isn't a simple word anymore. For months, these men lived in a world of altitude, fear, and fire, and now, peace feels foreign. The adrenaline that once guided them is gone, replaced by a strange emptiness. Across the Pacific, America is celebrating. Newspapers declare victory. In bold letters. Flags line the streets. Children wave. Factories whistle. Yet, in quiet corners of airfields from Guam to Tinian to Iwo Jima, thousands of Mustangs sit lined up like sleeping giants, their propellers still, their missions done. Each one carries a story. Each one represents a piece of the industrial miracle that won the war. 15,586 Mustangs built. 15,586 symbols of engineering triumph and of the cold arithmetic of victory. For every Mustang that took flight, somewhere in Japan, a P-84 Hay-8 struggled to take off. Fuel shortages, worn engines, desperate pilots, it was never a fair fight. By the war's end, Japanese air losses exceeded 15,000 aircraft, while the United States lost fewer than a tenth of that. The numbers were staggering and merciless. October 1945. Fu Airfield, Japan. The once bustling base is silent. The hangars stand half-collapsed, riddled with bullet holes and bomb fragments. A handful of surviving Ki-84s sit under tarps, their paint blistered by heat, their engines seized by rust. Former Captain Masami Taniguchi walks through the wreckage, now wearing a civilian jacket instead of his flight uniform. His face is older, thinner. He stops beside a burned-out Hay-8 and rests a hand on its wing. "You were fast," he says quietly, "but they were faster." For a long moment, he stands in silence, remembering the friends he lost, the missions that never returned, the hopeless battles fought with dwindling fuel and fading faith. Then he bows his head. Not to surrender but in acknowledgement. The Mustang had earned its place in history. Meanwhile, at a stateside airfield in California, American ground crews begin receiving orders, prepare to mothball or scrap excess P-51s. The war machine is turning off. Some planes will be sold to foreign allies. Others will rust away in desert boneyards. A few lucky ones will become race planes stripped of their guns, turned into symbols of speed instead of survival. But to the men who flew them, they will always be warhorses. Steel wings that carried them across oceans, through flak, through fear, and back again. One evening, Jerry Yellin stands beside his Mustang for the last time. The Pacific sun dips low behind him, painting the plane in gold. He runs his hand along the nose art Dory R, named after his wife, and smiles faintly. A young mechanic approaches. "Sir, are you ready to sign off your aircraft?" Yellin hesitates, then nods. "Yeah. She's done her job." He takes one last look at the sky. It is quiet now, almost too quiet. Then he turns and walks away, the echo of his boots fading into the twilight. The P-51 Mustang would go on to serve in Korea, in the early years of the Cold War, and even in smaller conflicts around the globe. But its soul remained forever tied to that summer of 1945, to the long, desperate missions over the Pacific, to the site of a fallen empire, and to the men who proved that courage, innovation, and industry could reshape history. When history remembers the Pacific War, it remembers the carriers, the bombers, the islands. But above it all, gleaming, roaring, untouchable, were the Mustangs. They didn't just escort bombers. They escorted a world into a new age. Spring, 1946. Across America, the air is filled not with the growl of engines but the hum of rebuilding. Veterans return to farms, factories, and small towns. Yet for many, the sound of a Merlin engine never leaves their dreams. The P-51 Mustang, the very machine that once darkened Tokyo's skies, now becomes something else entirely, a legend. War bonds are replaced by airshows. Military pilots trade combat formations for demonstration loops. Onlookers cheer as silver Mustangs thunder overhead, unaware that each one carries ghosts of Iwo Jima, Okinawa, and Tokyo in its wings. For men like Jerry Yellin, the war never truly ends. He finds himself haunted not by what he saw, but by what he survived. "I didn't bring home victory," he once said, "I brought home the memories of boys who didn't." He becomes a quiet advocate for peace, returning to Japan decades later to meet the sons of the men he fought, men who now share his reverence for the same sky they once tried to kill each other under. Meanwhile, in post-war Japan, the transformation is just as profound. The airfields once lined with Hay-8 fighters now sprout factories and schools. The very engineers who designed Japan's warplanes soon turn to civilian innovation, building engines, cars, and aircraft for peace. The pursuit of perfection in craftsmanship, once devoted to destruction, now fuels a rebirth. And somewhere in a museum in Tokyo, the twisted remains of a Ki-84 sit beside a gleaming P-51D Mustang, the two aircraft displayed not as enemies but as equal symbols of a generation that learned the cost of pride and the power of progress. Children look up at the Mustang's polished fuselage, tracing its contours with their eyes, their reflections shimmering on its metal skin. The placard beneath reads simply, "North American P-51D Mustang range, 1,650 miles. Engine, Rolls-Royce Merlin. The fighter that changed the war." Historians later call it the moment the world got smaller. For the first time, a single-engine fighter could cross oceans, reach the heart of an empire, and return safely. The P-51 had rewritten not just the playbook of aerial combat, but the very geography of war. Its influence echoes through generations. The Jet Age, the Cold War, the dream of supersonic flight all trace their lineage back to those men and machines who dared to stretch the limits of distance and endurance. Without the Mustang's success, there might have been no F-86 Sabre, no Apollo guidance systems, no belief that precision and persistence could overcome scale and fear. But beyond all that, beyond the records, the statistics, the mechanical genius, the Mustang's true legacy lies in something simpler. It proved that courage and innovation, when united, could bend history itself. It showed that even in war's darkest hours, human ingenuity could create something transcendent, a weapon of beauty that, paradoxically, taught the world how fragile life truly is. August 1945 faded into memory, but the image endured. A formation of P-51 Mustangs, silver and invincible, soaring above Tokyo Bay as peace was signed below. That moment, frozen in time, marked not just the end of a war, but the beginning of a new era, where the sky would forever belong to those who dared to dream higher.